Right, you can catch thousands of them, literally, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to give you just a quick tip on it, something that we've learned over the last couple of years. If you're going to go out and do whitefish through the ice, have a medium light rod to a light action. If at all, it'll be beneficial for you to put a slip bobber, a spring bobber on the end of the rod, especially for those that may be up in age a little bit, or for those of you guys that were out drinking too heavily the night before. So, and the reason being is it's a very subtle bite, and if you can't see that rod tip move like this, because we're fishing like 50 to 80 feet of water, if you can't see that rod tip move, you're going to have a tough time. But what we're doing is we're using light line, 4 to 6 pound test. We're working about 50 to 80 feet of water. The key to catching whitefish is to pound the bottom. You got to take a little. What we're doing on my setup is I'm using number 3 or number 4 or number 5 like pimples, Swedish pimples. I use like the blue ice. It's one of my favorite colors. I don't think it really matters. And then what I'm doing is I'm running a 12-inch dropper with a barrel swivel. And the key here now, you got to listen to this, because this is anything that we do in fishing. There's always going to be a little bit of a little twist to everything that we do that's going to put you over the edge to really make you a better fisherman. And what this twist is for this whitefish, and this is key again, above that barrel swivel is what we're using. It's like a number 12 or a number 14 treble hook, and we're just putting that on the line, then tie the barrel on, then tie your dropper down to your pimple, and then what we're doing is I'm using wax worms, waxies. I'm using the gulp waxies, which I think is a key ingredient to catching numerous fish. And I use like the natural color, which is like a brown, or we're using the white. I don't think it's really that important on color, but the natural color has definitely been one of my favorites. And then what that little treble does is it's kind of like drop shotting for smallmouth. Never drop shot, you'll understand kind of what a drop shot is right now. But what we do is we'll go down, pound the bottom, and if you watch on camera, there may be no fish around, but as soon as you pound the bottom, you got a captive audience. 4, 5, 6, 7 fish, boom, they're right there. And what that dropper, what we were finding out is by using the cameras, you got to remember that barrel swivel, the reason that I was using it was to reduce line twist. Line twist is one of the things that really can cause problems for us when we're out fishing. So by putting a barrel on that cuts down on the line twist, well, all of a sudden with the cameras down, and the camera, by the way, is a very essential part of being a successful ice fisherman. You got to remember, we're kind of like golfers. We have different clubs in the bag, and those clubs are in the bag for a reason. You end up in the sand trap, you pull out a pitching wedge. If you're paring off on a par 5, you pull out the big Bertha, or your one wood. And fishing's the same way. You got to have clubs in the bag. Those clubs are good rods made by Fravel, or having a nice shelter that gives you mobility, having a bucket to carry your minnows around in, or having an underwater camera. These are all essential parts of being a successful fisherman. An ATV, GPS. These are all things that are going to be assets to you as far as fishing. But anyhow, what we learned by watching with the underwater camera was these fish were coming in and hitting the barrel swivels. Well, if they're just hitting the barrel swivel, there's no hook on there, correct? So what we did is we put this treble hook on there, and 75, 80% of the fish that we're catching are coming on this treble hook. So that's one thing to remember if you're out white fishing. If you want to catch a lot of whitefish, A, pound the bottom, B, use waxies, whether they're live or the gulp. The only reason I say go with the gulp ones is because you'll be able to catch about 25 to 30 fish before you ever have to put another gulp on. If you use like the live waxies, you'll be changing them repeatedly because they're eating them right off the hooks. So it's nice to be able to catch 10, 15, 20 fish on one gulp. A little jar costs about $4.99, and it'll get you through the entire winter, and maybe next winter. So that's the beauty of it. But anyhow, what I'm going to talk to you today about, try to talk a little bit about walleye fishing. I'm also going to try to talk to you a little bit about smallmouth fishing. And just depending on how much time I have left. Who wants to hear more about walleye fishing? Maybe that'll help. Okay. Who wants to hear about smallmouth? All right. So we'll spend a little bit of, I'm going to spend the majority of the time just on the raising the hands about walleyes. First of all, the Bay of Green Bay. The Fox River right now obviously is on fire, catching a lot of fish. Remember one thing, at this time of the year, use a little etiquette. You know, you're going to be crowded up in the rivers. Be careful where you kind of set up and what you do. You know, there's a lot of guys out there, and it doesn't take long to have somebody start using some profanity, you know, so be careful when you're up in the river. Keep a safe distance from everybody. One thing that is going to make you more successful when you go up to the river is being able to have good boat control. Boat control, if you're up in the river and you're jigging, one thing that I've learned, I fished competitively for 15 years. I got to fish a number of different fisheries: Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, New York, Montana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, North and South Dakota, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Canada. Just to name a few of the places that we went to competitively fishing. And one thing that I dreaded for many, many of years was going to Lake Minnesota and fishing Rainy River, or going to Dubuque, Iowa and fishing the Mississippi, or going to Red Wing, Minnesota and fishing the Mississippi. You want to know why? I grew up on the bay. I was a bay fisherman. And fishing comes down to one thing, and you're all going to know what I'm talking about. Fishing comes down to one important factor. Who can tell me what that one important factor might be? Somebody raise a hand. Huh? Oh man, he got it right out of the chute. Did everybody hear what that was? Confidence. And for that answer, I autographed this with my rod that I ice fished with that caught many of walleyes through the ice this year. This is a Rosedale. It's a 30-inch medium. You have me autograph this one. It's got Mills Creek Farm 2009 with my name on it. I'm going to hand her back. There you go. That's yours. It's a good luck charm. Don't lose it. Confidence. Confidence is the number one factor in being a successful fisherman. I don't care if you're walleye fishing, crappie fishing, bullhead fishing, carp fishing, it all boils down to one thing. And you know what I'm talking about, because when you go to your spot on your lake, you pull out that rod, you go to the same spot, you always got the same crankbait on, right? Or the same spinnerbait, and it all comes down to confidence. And until you get that confidence factor, you're going to have a tough time fishing. And that's one thing that we try to do as guides. You know, when I go out and guide, I try to be that confidence for you, because I see it many times. I'll go up in Sturgeon Bay and fish smallmouth, and we'll get out there and I'll be throwing spinner baits for smallies, and the first thing the guy says to me is, "Hey, where's the number 7 Fire Tiger Shad Wrap?" And I'm like, well, let me guess, that's your go-to bait, right? You know, that's what he fishes smallmouth for.